Hi, this is Marisa from Marisa Orlich Interiors,
And I'm Tyler Fox of JM2 Architecture.
and we got a question offline about residential versus commercial architecture and what goes into the process of it and the differences in both fields. So, Tyler, how does JM2 architecture design commercial versus residential?
Yeah, it's definitely a great question because I think a lot of people don't maybe understand, you know, if the same firm does both, or maybe they're two different types of professions. And really, at the end of the day, it depends on the individual and it depends on the firm. Um, there's a lot of firms who specialize in either residential or commercial architecture. At JM2 Architecture, we do both residential and commercial, and we'll do almost every type of residential from small to large, and same with commercial. We'll do almost any type of commercial building or design. Um, and they're very different in that, number one, the codes for both are so unique. I mean, there's an entire code dedicated to residential design, the residential code of New York State, and then there's a commercial code, and both have similarities but are very different, obviously. And you kind of just think of what goes into a commercial building. It's usually like a public assembly type place, whether it's office or a gym or restaurant. There's a lot of people in one space. So thinking about what to do in terms of protecting the building, protecting the occupants is very different from that of a home. And even the construction, you think of a home as being a wood framed building, you think of a commercial building as maybe steel or concrete or masonry. So the construction types are very different. So there's a lot of different differences. And that's why some firms will only choose, or individual sole proprietors will only choose to focus on one or the other, because there is so much to learn and so much to know and to become an expert at that one field. So I mean,
Sure.
those are pretty much the differences, on my end. So what about you, Marissa?
So the differences with the design portion of it is you might have designers who only specialize in commercial spaces and they have a niche in those commercial spaces. So they could be restaurant designers, they could be hospital designers. When they are doing more commercial space, you have to think about what you said, the occupancy levels of it. So you think more about the ADA, American with Disabilities Act, larger doorways, grab bars in certain situations. Whereas when you do residential interior design, you're not, unless the client has disabilities or they have a specific request, you're not taking into those codes. You are still, doing the 3 feet from the island to the surrounding countertops, but you're not doing larger portions in order to get a wheelchair through or to have that pathway for people moving in the space. And then I tend to even design a little bit with some commercial things in residential homes. So if I know there is younger kids, I might be doing commercial grade fabric on sofas, meaning that it's more durable and water resistant. Or you might just get some furniture. You might find a desk that's really a beautiful piece and you want to use it in a teenager's room because they're gonna really get the use out of it.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of differences.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned ADA too, because that's something that's very obviously prevalent now in commercial design, but also depending on who your client is in the residential world can be very important thing to make sure you follow and incorporate. Knowing the client's needs and is brings a big part of it into the project. So.
Sure.
And like you said too, with different types of designers in the commercial world, I mean, there are design firms, architecture firms who only specialize in restaurants or only specialize in industrial. So there could be a very specific niche that they're in, and that's where some firms start. That's where JM2 started, was kind of in a niche in the commercial world, and we've expanded, much broader since. But, it's definitely a great question, and I hope this video kind of helps people understand a little bit more about the differences between them, and whenever you may need one, who to look out for. So.
Yes. And if you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments below.
Definitely.
I am Marissa for Marisa Orlich Interiors.
And I'm Tyler Fox of J&2 Architecture.
Thank you
Thanks.
for watching.